It is almost Halloween, which is my favorite time of the year, and in my hardcore world, I want to celebrate these spooky times by creating a haunted castle. This project will be absolutely massive, and I want to get this video done before Halloween, which means I have a lot to do. But before I get started on gathering materials, I actually want to solve a very big problem that I have in this world. I have a creeper over there. No, I need to figure out a way to get XP a bit more effectively than what I have been doing, as I do not have a good XP farm in this world. So what I'm going to do now is get the materials to make an Enderman XP farm. Sometimes I have to remind myself I'm still in early game Minecraft. I keep starting so many large projects and they require a lot of durability from my tools and now my elytra, but I've been stuck with my awful zombie XP farm. So right now I'm excited to jump in my least favorite dimension to build an overpowered Enderman XP farm. Now that I have an elytra, I need a good source of XP, just like you need a good VPN. Joking, I don't have sponsors, but I do have a high heart rate because even with my elytra on, bridging over the void and building at Y level 0 is pretty terrifying. I chose this farm by Dashpum04 because it was pretty simple to make and the rates were also really good. It looks a little ugly and out of place, but I didn't want to dedicate a ton of time to make the farm look super fancy if it didn't affect the rates at all. Now, I can use the farm. It's incredibly scary being in here. I really don't like it, but I need to repair my elytra and my tools, so it's worth the risk. I think all I have to do is look at the Endermen, and then they will teleport in here after a few seconds, and then I can just start hitting them, and then it should give me XP. Extremely loud, but my elytra is already pretty much mended up. Now, the way this farm works is I look at the Endermen, they aggro, and there's so many of them. And then the armor stand actually just makes it so it deals sweeping damage to them, and most of them die to entity cramming. This is a very humane way of getting rid of these creatures. It's incredibly efficient, and this game is awful. But the farm works, that's all that really matters. These Endermen don't have feelings, because they're all dead. But now, after just a few minutes, I have maxed out my tools, and this might be the scariest thing I've ever laid my eyes upon. Well, happy Halloween, guys. That's the video. Well, anyways, I'm done using the farm. It's actually pretty easy to turn off. You just don't look at them, and then you just go on your merry way, you know? This is very good. It's not scary at all being all the way down here. And now I'm ready to begin gathering materials for today's episode. Yee! For this episode, I wanted to do something a bit different. I want to build a castle, which is something I totally haven't done before. For the castle, though, I wanted the main block to be tough, as I just find tough to be the perfect mid-tone block. The only problem was I needed close to 10,000 blocks, and it's kind of difficult to gather. I was a bit lucky, though, in that this cave seemed to have an above-average amount of it, and above average is good enough for me, at least for this episode. With the tough being the main block, I also needed some deep slate to mix in as that darker tone, and I also needed a little bit of andesite to use as a highlight. But I realized I had all of the deep slate I need over here from the build site a couple episodes ago. But that is perfectly fine. I don't mind over collecting a little bit. But right now I want to get started on collecting the next material, which is going to be moss and pale moss. So I want to make an automatic farm. I'm at the stage in my world where I really need to prioritize making automatic farms as much as I can to speed up the process of future videos. Moss farms are pretty big as well, so I needed to choose an area of my world to hide the farm. The evil iron farm seemed like a great spot to put the moss farm because I wanted a space to hide it, and the iron farm was on man-made land, so there was a lot of room underneath it. The only problem was it was a spooky mob spawner, so I placed some torches to hopefully scare away the demons. The moss farm is the same design I use in all of my worlds. I've made it so many times I have the design completely memorized. I'm totally not following a build schematic and using easy place. I should just have to place the moss block right in the middle, and then I should be able to just turn it on. No, I forgot to put bone meal in it. That's the problem. And there we are getting moss. I might need a little bit more bone meal though, but let me turn this off for just 1 second. Because they removed spawn chunks, I want to have this thing loading as I'm collecting the other materials. And I did mess up, I didn't put this in the middle of a chunk, so I'm going to need 3 ender pearls in order to make 3 chunk loaders. I also need 3 buckets of water. I'm also going to need a little bit of kelp to make some bubble columns. Now, I've never done this before, but I think it's pretty simple. If I put in the middle of this chunk a little hole, maybe like right here, it's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 blocks down. Oh no. And then if I put a water bucket here with some kelp going up, it should make a bubble column, and then I should be able to just throw an ender pearl like that. And that should keep this chunk loaded. Now, I just need this one chunk loaded so the redstone right here stays loaded, I think. I don't have to worry about this chunk. And then I want to load this chunk and then this one. And again, these chunks should stay loaded in theory. Now that I have that out of the way, I need to collect the next block, which will be over in the desert, as I need a ton of sand for light gray concrete powder. I've used light gray concrete powder in my builds before. It's a great highlight block to go alongside andesite, but I've never used the actual concrete block. So today I'm experimenting a bit, but in order to make the concrete, I also need a decent amount of gravel. There was a nearby savanna as well that I need to steal resources from, specifically acacia wood. I even hear tale of a man who steals acacia wood from nearby villages, so be careful. This man may or may not be me, as I was also caught stealing materials from the stronghold, but they had a lot of cracked stone bricks, so what can I say? Going back home, I checked up on the rates of the moss farm. It didn't work super well, but it got me like 6 or 7, I'd say about 6 double chests worth that I turned into mossy stone bricks. And then I finally planted some pale oak trees and chopped them down for pale oak wood. So after all of that, I have created the biggest chest monster of all time. And even a little shulker monster here as well on the side. But again, I have so many materials that I'm going to use today for the castle. Before I get started on the castle, I want to elevate the land a little bit, as a castle would be elevated just for defense purposes. So what I want to do is remove these pale oak trees that I planted and do a bit of terraforming. The terraforming I had to do was very small. I really just wanted to smooth out the land a bit and lower it down a few blocks. And what I want to do before I get started building is, you can see the schematic is going to be elevated quite high. I want to light up underneath here before I build a giant mob spawner once again. So I'm just going to spam torches as much as I can, and you can see this area is already pretty dark. I think this will definitely save me some pain later on. Oh, yep. That's exactly why I want to light this area up, because Mr. Creeper. Like I said, I want the castle to be elevated off the ground. You would usually see a castle at the top of a hill, or somewhere where they had a height advantage on anybody who dares attack the castle. For me, I wanted to go for something a bit more dead, with a lot of rocks and some dead grass mixed in. And I'm doing something very similar to what I did with the tower just ahead of me, and I am replacing the dirt with the path block to get a dead grass texture with the path block. You know, I'm assuming this area isn't really traveled too much, and maybe not a ton of stuff really grows here, so I like the idea of making this area dead as well. I had the idea of raising the landscape because I was basing this castle off one of my favorite TV shows, House of the Dragon, and the filming location for the castle was actually on an old quarry, so I decided to make the landscape with 2 distinct levels to it. I also think this creates a very unique environment for the castle to stand on. This took me a bit longer than it should have, but I now have the terraforming completed with the area raised up and all of the grass and dry grass spread throughout. And you can obviously see there is a pretty big hole right in front of me, and it will be a staircase, of course, to get up to the castle entrance. Before I get into building this castle, I kind of want to talk about a little plan I have for this area. So the castle is going to be absolutely massive. It's going to fill in really this entire shape, and I might put in a couple more entrances in between the mountains. But I personally kind of want this to be tucked away and hidden, and I want it to feel like this is a separate area and these aren't connected. I know that doesn't make sense because they have a similar vibe to them, but I want to expand this mountain at some point and make the castle in between all of these mountains. If I put a giant mountain connected between here, it'll make this area feel very separated, which is kind of what I want. I love this build, but it doesn't really fit in with the aesthetic that I'm going for the rest of the world, so I kind of want to hide it. With that being said, though, I want to get started on creating the staircase, and I want to get started on building the castle. For the staircase, I want to use some darker tones as some shadows. So I'm going to grab some of the cobble deep slate and deep slate tiles, as well as the regular smoother deep slate. I don't know anybody that calls it that. I also want to grab a bit of regular tuff, as well as some of the tuff bricks. And I wanted to go up gradually, so I'm going to grab some of the tuff slabs and tuff brick slabs. For this bridge, I want to go up with some regular deep slate, and then I want to go up with some tuff and some tuff bricks to get a bit of a gradient, and then I'm going to mix in some mossy cobblestone as a lighter tone, and then I'm going to bleed that back into the tuff. And then to make it go up just at a little bit more of an angle, I want to mix in some of those slabs with a bit more of the regular tuff. Again, continuing that angle with even more slabs to get this shape that'll go up gradually to where the entrance is. So I've repeated this angle on the other side, and I want to go up at a very gradual slope like I've been saying, and I want to mix in some coarse dirt in here as well, and some packed mud, as I want the staircase going up here to look like it also has some of the dirt and grass that we have in the terraforming. I've added some rooted dirt in here as well, and I want to go through with some of the short dry grass and short grass, and I want to blend this in a little bit more and make it look a little bit more overgrown. And instead of adding actual grass, I think adding the grass with the rooted dirt underneath will just make this look a lot better. And then with the mossy cobblestone added in here as well, it adds just another tiny pop of green in here. The staircase is not extremely steep or anything, but I still think this provides a challenge for people who come into the castle. If this place was ever to come under attack, I think these stairs would add that extra level of defense. With the terraforming finished and the staircase put in, I want to start building the castle, which of course starts with the main gate. For the gate, I started with a strong foundation using polished tuff and tuff bricks. I then built the main wall out of a variety of gray blocks, mainly the light gray concrete and the mossy stone bricks, as the colors just work really well together. At the top of the main gate, I'm doing something that I did in the last episode where I created the tower with the spruce fence gates that I'm going to leave open, and I'm going to connect these with some tough walls and then some tough brick walls for texture. And this will just create a sort of fortification to where the top of the towers will be for the main gate. And then what I can do is I can then connect these walls over top with some more of the tough brick walls. And then what I can do as I build up is I can go again with that light gray concrete and then mix in some of the mossy stone bricks and more of that light gray concrete up here, which will just curve the edge of the build very, very slightly from the walls down to where this tower is. And this just adds a little bit more interesting shape up at the top. After completing the left half of the gate, I replicated the same shape on the right side. To be honest, I never really thought about using all of these different tuff variants together in this way. I kind of thought of these as like an accent block or something, not really to use in a build like this, but it really does just blend all together. And you can't really notice the smaller designs that I have. You kind of just notice the color of it. Now, the shape of the main entrance is in, and it's very, very rough on the edges, quite literally. So what I want to do is I want to add an outline for the main entrance, and then I want to create the actual gate using some of the iron bars. Instead of using any of the tough walls, I want to use a lighter tone to contrast with the rest of the build. So I'm going to grab some of these stone brick walls, and I should have some andesite walls, and I'm going to craft down some of the cobblestone walls. The first thing I want to do is I want to round out this arch with the tough walls, and I'll see if I can get up here with my elytra. Perfect. And this will just blend it in and curve it slightly, and it'll make it look a lot better. Now again, I wanted to border the main entryway with a wall. So again, what I want to do is I want to use some of those cobblestone walls, and I want to go up a little bit just for some texture. I want to mix in between the cobblestone walls and the stone brick walls. And then up a little bit more, I want to give it a sort of border. So I'm going to go up with some stone brick stairs and then some regular stone bricks. And I'm going to first go around with some of the andesite and stone brick walls for a little bit of a highlight. And then over top of them, I can put in the stone brick stairs, and this will just make it look from a distance as if the stairs kind of just slightly go down a bit. I'm also going to extend the border of the entrance to go around the top of the arch. In the middle, I wanted to do something a little bit different using some of the chiseled tough bricks, and then I want to connect that to the wall that I'm creating. And then I want to add a little bit of a triangle shape using the tough bricks with the tough brick slabs at the top. Copying what I did on the right side to the left side, what this has done is it's just added a little bit of extra depth to the build, which I think is much needed and makes it look a lot better. Now, the reference image I used also has another one of these walls, and I wanted to try to replicate that with some dark oak hanging signs. And I wanted to attach them to the building to get this top shape. And I think this will just look pretty cool, especially with the dark oak. I think it'll blend into the rest of the build quite nicely. And I also wanted to put it along this wall as well, again getting that full hanging sign shape. And I'll carry this all the way to the edge that I have currently. And then on top of them, I wanted to add some black candles. And this was almost supposed to look like some spikes that are kind of on the edge of the build. And it kind of looks like spikes. I mean, you're going to have to use your imagination a little bit. It looked like something the reference image had, so I just put it on there. The current state of the castle is not great as it allows anybody to come in, so right now I want to add in some iron bars to add a bit of defense to the front of the build. And of course now it is looking like the main entrance to what would be a grand castle with this portcullis right here, which is the technical term. But there is a one tiny detail I want to add to the front, as I want to make a couple of flag designs. I've absolutely loved in this world to create flag designs and like house colors, like family colors. This is kind of something that you see in a lot of medieval world building, and it's something that I want to do in this world. And I want to make the flag design out of some glazed terracotta, but I'm going to have to get the shape correct. And to be honest, I don't know how to do that, so I'm just going to use the easy place mode to do this. It's going to make my life a little bit easier. And then because I want to get some height onto this flag, I want to carry it up 4 blocks up here, and then I want to connect some of the grindstones to the top of it. And this will just make it look like the flag is being held up by something. And then I can connect it using some levers. And that's going to look pretty cool from down here. Now I did make a couple of black banners, and this I can put down here to make it look like from a distance it actually has a very sharp edge to it. I don't think it looks that great though, from this angle at least. From straight on though, I actually think it looks pretty good. But I don't know. Definitely let me know what you guys think. I don't mind it. I don't hate it, but I think it's still a very cool touch to the build, and I'm going to repeat this on the side. I don't really love the way the flags look right now, but I did end up reworking that design in a creative world, so I will fix that later on. There's still a bit more to build in order to complete the entrance, so right now I'm adding in a small tower to the front to give an alternative angle for defense, and to add some extra depth. I wanted to make the gate symmetrical, so I also repeated the same tower design on the right side, and it was also looking a little bit unfinished in the back, so I completed the back side of the main gate. So now I have the banners in on the other side and have completely replicated the entire gate design, minus of course where I'm going to be extending part of the actual building along this way. I'm also going to be adding some more over here. As you can see, a little space is laid out right over in this area, and it's also pretty dark in here, so I might need to get some more torches to light it up. This castle wouldn't really be haunted if there wasn't creepy crawlies, so I think it's fine to let them stay. I'm currently working on the left side of the main gate, which includes a smaller building and a large defense tower. On the top side of this tower, I want to create some more of those battlements that I made on top of the main gate. This time they're going to be jutted out by a single block, and then I want to put in some tough slabs behind them. And then I can go ahead and replace some of these slabs and stairs with some tough brick stairs just to add a little bit of variety to it. Again, these battlements are used for protection against any invaders, kind of just to have different angles of defense, maybe to shoot some arrows through them. Now, I mean, you really can't see over them that far, but it's fine. It's Minecraft. But I went ahead and added the battlements to this side of the tower, and we can see from down here, it just creates that awesome castle shape that I was, of course, going for throughout the build. Behind the tower, I've built up more along this side, and I want to use this time to showcase the window design that I used on the iron farm, and I want to do the same thing over here with the cauldrons, and then I want to put a dark oak sign underneath it, just for a little bit of extra detail. There's not a ton of contrast on all of these buildings, so I thought that that fit pretty well. But this window design is honestly one of my favorites now, as especially for a castle, it just gives it that slight curve that you don't really get from any other blocks in the game. And the best angle to showcase this is actually just free cam. You can see me peeking over there. But this is a great building technique, and it's something that I want to do over here as well. I'm now building up towards the roof, and I want to give it a dark oak trim using some of the slabs as supports. And then I want to use some of the deep slate brick and cobbled deep slate slabs just to give it some texture. And I want to slope the roof going every 2 blocks. So these will go into full blocks once they reach this point, and this will just slope up until it reaches the end of the build. And I also wanted to add in parts that are a little bit darker using some of the deep slate tile slabs. Now we can see what the castle looks from down below, and this addition to the left side really does a lot for the shape of the castle. Now you can kind of tell the castle is a little bit plain. There's not a ton of windows other than the ones that I put up there. And that's because I actually plan on doing the entire interior. And it's a lot more difficult to put in the windows beforehand. When you're building an interior of something, especially this large, you don't really want to put the windows in first. You kind of want to do that once you have the interior laid out. Now, I did want to put the windows in here just to give it a little bit more shape. And there's windows there in the reference, I'll be honest. But castles also just don't have a ton of windows. And if they do have windows, they're pretty small. But with this building done, and the tower over there done, there is this spot right here where I want to put a ruined tower. But I do think if I add any more ruined areas to the build in the future, I want to also add areas of the build that are maybe under construction as well, just to tell a little bit of a story around what's actually happening in the castle. This place is supposed to be absolutely massive, as it's going to be covering up this entire region. So this castle would still be pretty functional, and you would think a castle of this scale, people would still want to live in it. With that being said, I do have the right side now complete, and now I'm moving on to the left side. I'm getting started on the biggest part of the entire castle. So right now I'm creating 2 large doors because I plan on doing the interior of this section. Again, this will be the barracks of the castle, which means there would be a lot of guards, and those people would need a space to live and eat and store their weapons. I wanted to break up from the boring skyline closer to the right end of the castle, so I created a couple large towers, which also gives it a more menacing vibe. It's hard to tell just how big this section of the castle actually is, but once I get the interior put in for this, the scale is definitely going to be noticed. I don't have a ton of the interior planned out for this, mostly just the bottom floor. Right now it's currently a cave, but there's a wandering trader down here. Oh no, his llamas. Oh no. Where'd he go? He wants to give me some slime balls. Some gunpowder. Ooh, I actually might need that. Maybe I might actually take some gunpowder. I'm lazy. I don't feel like grabbing emeralds. Anyways, so now I have the main gate put in. I have this area on the right side, and now I have the main kind of corridor of this part of the castle finished with this large building, and then I have a couple more towers, maybe for further defense against, I don't know, perhaps dragons or something like that. I mean, these are some very, very tall towers right here. But who knows? Maybe people are attacking from the mountaintop right there. Now, for the first tower, I just used a very simple trick with the walls to make it look like it's slightly curved and out just a little bit, which I think looks very nice. This one, I don't know if it's used as much for defense. There's not really any battlements on it at all, so it might just be a tower. Now up here, I really liked the gray stained glass I put in along this tower, and then I used the slabs on top to get that battlement look. So this one could be used a little bit more for defense. Maybe I can put like a a giant crossbow up here for a defense against a dragon or something, which would be honestly pretty cool. This area has a kind of a circle shape to it, this area in between all these mountains. And what I want to do is I want to kind of have the castle go along with that circle shape. The last section will be the main dining hall for the castle, with a couple more guard towers on the edge. This area of the castle is a lot more open than the rest, as the main building is very rectangular and has a ton of room. So this seemed like a perfect spot to put the main dining hall and any other common areas. Towards the top of the castle, I was thinking about adding some more living quarters and of course some more areas of the castle centered around its defense. That includes this more ruined tower on the end. This tower is a little bit ruined, a little bit more ruined than any other part of the castle that I've built other than that tall tower right there. And this gives me an idea of creating some scaffolding up here as if they're trying to repair it. So if I go on and fly down here, I have some spruce fences and I want to get some trap doors. And I want to go ahead and make some slabs and grab a few stairs. I also want to grab a few chains. And I want to make a few ladders as well. So I just need to fly on top of this tower, which actually looks pretty cool. I like the ruined vibe that it has. I want to start by putting in a few pillars spaced every 2 blocks. And then I want to put a ladder right here just to give people a way up. And then I can put the trapdoor with the ladder on the other side so we can actually climb it. And then I'm going to bring these fences up probably 4 blocks. I've built up the fences a little bit more and I want to bring a spruce slab platform here to look like some scaffolding. I also put some chains up here and I'll admit they look very odd when you're looking at it from where I'm standing. From the angle that you're going to be seeing the castle most from, they look pretty good. I mean, they're not perfect, but you know, you're not zooming in up there a lot with the spyglass, so I think it honestly works. Now, the last section of the build is the giant rectangular building, which includes a very large staircase on the side. Now, the last thing I need to do is bring the staircase to connect this part of the build to where I just was. And this is really the section of the build that I'm like the most excited about completing the actual decoration for. And plus, I think the staircase just gives it a lot of character along this side of the build. I wasn't sure what to do over here, and it's a little bit hard to tell that there's a staircase here. But again, once there's actually some decoration there, I think it'll look super, super cool. And I really like the staircase right there. I think it looks very nice. So here's the scaffolding I put in just a minute ago, and we have this section up here as well as another sort of battlement that's just has a little bit more of a height advantage. I am very, very happy with the way this castle really shaped up. I think it looks very nice. Going through the main gate does not feel so empty anymore until you look over at these mountains, which, by the way, looks beautiful. Coming through the main gate, just seeing the mountains in the background. Oh, it's actually a very nice vibe. Too bad there's a giant building I have planned out to put right here. I also have a plan for the interior, of course, and that is where I'm going to get started next. And it just started raining, but honestly, I think that's a good vibe. I think this castle is supposed to be a little spooky. I think the rain is welcomed over here, but this makes me want to turn shaders on. The castle looks so good with shaders. Usually I'm not like a shader person, but I think it's just defined a little bit more the shape of the castle, except I actually have some spooky shaders. Let me try these. Yeah, that's pretty spooky. Can't really see anything. Yeah, these shaders are definitely pretty spooky. I actually like it. What? I feel like I'm in a movie right now. I can't see anything. All right, I better be careful. I don't want to die. Actually, cannot see where I'm going. Hope you guys enjoyed that nice spooky edit of the interior. I am extremely happy with the way that it turned out, and I'm going to start the little tour out here, as I did put in these big doors to enter the interior here. Initially I didn't have them, but I kind of put them in. I like it. This one you can't go through, but this one it's like it's left open a little bit. But when you come into the interior, you have this main hallway in this space, and it was kind of hard to get the shape because it's on a slight curve, but I think it turned out pretty nice. Have some big iron bars, have some small chandeliers throughout here, which I think just add to that spooky vibe that I was going for. I didn't add much in here to make it haunted, but I still think it feels haunted. Have this little shrine, I think fits the vibe very nicely. And I mean, there's not a ton of decoration in here, but I think that's fine. I don't think a castle would have too much going on. But we do have an upstairs going through this way, and yeah, ignore this hole right here. It's not great. I put in a lot of dripstone to add that like drippiness sound effect throughout the place, and I think it feels pretty nice. But I mean, the staircase, it's pretty boring. But if you go up just a little bit more, there is a kind of armory thing up here, as these are like the castle barracks. So I wanted to add places that have like, you know, some armor stands, you know, like we got the stone cutter, the grindstone. And then if you go up a little bit more, there's this spooky little table with a small window. And then we also have the cauldron trick to add in a few more windows into this room, as I really like the castle interiors that have the windows that lead into other rooms. I think it just makes the area feel a little bit more connected. But if you go up the staircase a little bit more, there's really not much left to show because I haven't figured out what I want to do with the rest of the area. It also just turned nighttime, which I think is great. I actually wanted to do this tour at night. I think it's perfect. And this is one of my favorite parts of the entire interior. We have this room right here, and oh, it just feels so cool. Brighten it up a little bit more just so you guys can see. I love the spiral staircase with the anvils in the window. I mean, this is like a staple of like a haunted castle, I feel like. I feel like I need to add a spiral staircase. It doesn't lead to anywhere quite yet, but this will be where the second level is. But I love it. Absolutely love it. I love when it turns nighttime. We have the moon, and it just gives like a blue kind of lighting in here. Now this is the main dining hall for the castle. We have these tiny rooms in here, which I will do something with at some point. Maybe this will be a bedroom, maybe like a small library or something. I'm not quite sure. Definitely let me know of what you guys want to see in this room. I don't know. But now we have the main dining hall, or the grand hall for like the barracks, which I think, you know, we have some like dining tables right here with the candles, have some shelves. I have this right here to make it look like there's some swords, which I think looks pretty nice. And yeah, we have like the main table right here for people that are a little bit more important. And oh, I love it. I love the flags in the background. I didn't realize I did this, but there's also a sword in like the middle here, in that middle window. So if you're looking at it from this angle, there's just a sword in the middle. I think that's really cool. But we also have a large arched doorway into this small room, which was just extra storage. I do think this area will be closely connected to like a small kitchen, maybe in here, but I don't know. I do want to make an entire wing of the castle dedicated to the kitchens, but there's also this staircase. I know, I love these tall arches, and then the staircase on the side. So yeah, that's the interior of the castle. So definitely let me know what you guys think of the interior. Does it feel spooky? Does it feel haunted in here? I think it does. I think it has a nice vibe, especially when you go outside and are met with the itsy bitsy spider. But I mean, I really cannot wait to finish the entire castle. It's going to take a while, but I think it's going to be really, really cool in here. I also have a mod that detaches the camera. This was really fun. Very, very fun. And happy Halloween, everybody. I'll see you guys in the next one.